I am delighted to welcome the one and only Annie Banannie to the Kids Entertainer Podcast. It is a delight to have you here, Annie.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I love your podcasts.
Oh, well, here you are, and you're speaking to our listeners. Just for those, and I know everyone knows who you are, but just for those who might be wondering who is Annie Banannie, tell us a little bit about you. Paint us that picture.
Paint a picture. Well, I live in Southern California, and I'm a balloon storyteller, and I don't tell stories to balloons. They don't care. That's actually a joke in my show that works surprisingly even for preschoolers. But I actually use balloons in everything that I do. So I'm a storytelling type. I'm a newly minted children's author. Children's book author. I don't write children. I write children's books. It's a difference. And let's see. I'm messing this up. All right. So I've been balloon twisting for 16 years. I have a theater background, musical theater, in fact. And so everything I do is kind of, I want it to be more of a including everybody. And I love the art, and that's wonderful. But the time for me to be really into the art of the balloon is when I'm playing with other balloon artists, or by myself, I'm figuring out a new sculpture. But when I'm working with other people and with my clients, I like it to be really super interactive. And so it could be I'm a storyteller, so sometimes we make up stories depending on the kids and the age of the kids. Sometimes I issue a challenge or anything to get everybody involved as a group. So rather than just one or two people, especially if you have a whole line of kids, which I don't do very often, but when I do, I want 10, 15 people paying attention to what we all are doing rather than just the first person in line. And then I do stage shows, school assemblies, library, summer reading programs, and that sort of thing. But I do a lot of stage stuff.
So diverse what you're doing, and I guess the one thread that kind of winds its way through that is that you're entertaining children when you're doing and you love it, and it's evident. I've looked on your website and just looked at your promo videos. There's two things that are evident from looking at that. Number one, you love what you do, and you do it so well, Annie. You are an absolute master.
Thank you.
But the other thing that comes to me is that you are very wise in the ways of business, in the way that you promote yourself and market. It almost seems like it's another passion for you, that side of things.
It is. I get, sometimes I look at it as another place for my creativity. And I really love having something really super unique that people interact with rather than here's my business card. I think business cards are for doctors and lawyers and, financial analysts and things like that. Yeah, I want to see that. And that establishes a little bit of legitimacy. But seriously, I don't understand business cards for entertainers. And I know I'm stepping on a lot of toes here. Yeah, even if you've got a really gorgeous business card, unless there's something, watch what happens when you hand somebody your business card. If they'll look down on it, especially if you have really pretty pictures and everything. Ooh, that's neat. But if they don't interact with it for more than 10 seconds, then it's a boring piece of promo. But if you see later on people sharing, it's just like social sharing on the web, but they'll be at the party and they'll say, hey, look at this. Or, if they're not just as excited about your promo stuff as they would be about a toy, then it's not that exciting.
It's interesting you mentioned that, and I know that you're going to be sharing with us today about your success in using marketing merchandise and things that you can give away that are going to have more impact than a business card. But I note that you kind of made a post in the Kids Entertainer Hub Facebook group recently, and you said, hey, I don't believe in giving away business cards. And it was so interactive. Boy, were they jumping in. And really interesting debate there. It was nice and long. And if you're listening to this, it's worth on going over to the Kids Entertainer Hub Facebook group and having a look at that and go and add your 50 cents to that as well. But really interesting information that's coming out there. But it makes sense to me when you say, hey, lawyers and doctors give out business cards. We're kids entertainers. What is it that we can do that is better than that? And I guess that leads us so neatly into what it is that you're going to be talking about today, which is kind of promotional merchandise. And where did your interest in that come from? Was it from that boring business card, there must be more to this?
I don't know where it came from. I love things that are really clever. So when you go to, say, a 5K run and you see somebody giving out branded water bottles, I'm like, wow, that's clever, that's useful, that's helpful. And it just, I automatically start thinking, how can I do that in my business? I've been having my own business since I was like 11. So I've always seen things sort of entrepreneurial. But I just love things where it serves more than one purpose. Anytime that there's a really good book, in fact, called Utility. It's Utility, however that's spelled. And it talks about how the same thing that I'm talking about is like, instead of just marketing at people, because we see so much marketing, it doesn't really matter. And it doesn't register with us. But if we're going to do something helpful, then that helps not only your business, but it helps the people that you're advertising to. So a really good example that he gives in the book is I think it was in New York's Times Square, there was a couple of portable bathrooms. They weren't like the portable potties, but the really super nice ones where you walk up and there's like a sink and stuff.
Yep.
And it was sponsored by Charmin, and their branding was all over it. And if you've ever been to Times Square, you know that it's impossible to find a place to go to the bathroom. And so for somebody to do that, they've really helped those of us who have been walking around all day and can't find a place to go to the bathroom. And then, wow, look there, it's helpful. And it makes me feel good to be able to say, oh, great, now I didn't have to go and beg some McDonald's or something like that to let me use their bathroom. And then, it's been a convenience for me. And I'm going to have a good feeling, and I'll remember that, and I'll tell my friends about it. Can you believe it? I can't believe right in the middle of Times Square there was this. And so because it filled a need that I had right then. And it was helpful to me. It shows that they're thinking of me. That's also a thing about how to be, and this is completely off the subject, but it's how to be romantic. Is I don't want somebody to bring me flowers because I'm allergic to most of them. But when my husband and I were dating, our first date, in fact, he had asked me what my favorite candy was. And so I told him, well, I really love those bottle caps. They're really awesome. And so he brought me, he couldn't bring flowers because he had come to visit me in Colorado, and he didn't have a car. So he couldn't do that anyway. So what he had done is brought like a bouquet of bottle caps. Wow. And had, wrapped them up in uninflated balloons as a little bow. And just the fact that he planned that far, and it was such a surprise, I didn't know he was going to do it. It showed that it's more than he thinks that he should get flowers for somebody he's dating, but he really knows me specifically. And it's the same thing as if you're kind of, and that's true, you're kind of romancing your customers.
Yeah.
You want them to know that you think about them when they're not right in front of you. And I think that right there, if they realize that you know them and you love them, then, most of your marketing is already done. Because we're attracted to people who are attracted to us and companies.
And when you're saying that, it's so memorable what you're talking about. It leaves a lasting memory. It influences you in a way, but a positive way, because somebody's giving something to you. When you were talking about Times Square, it was interesting. You mentioned the name of the company.
I'll never forget.
Just in passing, the name of the company was there, and it was kind of put in there. So your story of relating that to other people, which I'm sure you've mentioned it to many other people, carries the brand of the company. And that's what you're talking about here, how powerful this can be. Because we're talking about promo merchandise, and promo is to promote ourselves. So there is, of course, that agenda behind that of promoting ourselves, but in a way that adds such value to those that receive this. I love this. So that kind of defies what promo merchandise is, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you want the story not to be about the company. You want the story to be about when I'm telling the story's about me, and I'm not going to care about it if it's not about me. And like as a consumer, not as a business. So if somebody does something wonderful for me, I'm going to tell everybody. And then, oh yeah, by the way, it was this company. But that's not the most important part of the story to me as a consumer. The most important part to me was, oh, this was super clever. And what a neat experience that was. And if all of my promo material can be like that, like if you give a kid a magic trick, and a kid can do a piece of magic that, he's never been able to do magic before. This is so exciting. And he shows all his friends. Now, it's not about you. It's about that kid and how he's gaining status with his peers. If you want to get all fancy about it, he's gaining status by doing something that he hasn't been able to do before. And he's able, it makes him feel good. And then when he teaches his friends, it makes all them feel good. And it's all about something that you did for him. And oh, by the way, your promo stuff is on there. And the mom will notice what happens with the kid, and the kid will remember, and he'll beg his mom or dad to have you at the birthday. And it's not because, oh, I kind of saw this one magician once, but that guy was awesome. And he gave my kid a magic trick, and we're going to have him at our birthday party. There's the difference there.
It's viral. What? It actually works once it's in the hands of the person who receive it, because it is of such use to them, and because it has a story that they can relate, becomes viral, and they will share that with others. It's really, I love it. So that's kind of, I guess, defines what makes good promotional merchandise. So this sounds like the Holy Grail. It sounds like the golden ticket to have this merchandise that does this. Are there some examples that you use that you can share with us so we can have an understanding of how we can maybe relate this to us as entertainers?
Yeah. I like anything that gives an interactive experience and just happens to go, with what I do. So, for example, I'm not going to give out like a sports schedule or anything related to sports, because sports bores me to tears and it doesn't fit with who I am. But I will give out something that has to do with the book that I wrote, but only if it's something like a game or an activity book. Let me find my favorite one. Oh, well, it's not my favorite one, but the one I use all the time, and Buster's, my husband's personal favorite, is bookmarks. I think bookmarks are kind of boring. I never know where they are. I never use them in my own books. However, kids think they're amazing, and it's really special. And the libraries hype them up too. And we work at libraries a lot. So one of the things I always carry with me is a bookmark, even at my, if I don't have anything else, that's just like my backup. And so I'll be at a birthday party and I'll hand them my bookmark and I'll say something like, to the kids, there's all sorts of wonderful pictures on there. And I talk about all the information about an interactive story contest that I have going on all the time. But then if I give it to an adult, I say, here's a bookmark and this is your pass for 15 minutes of free reading time without the kids bothering you. So that way, that's a good way for them to maybe get you. Oh, yeah.
I want one of those bookmarks.
Just things that you think of. Yeah, really?
Yeah. Oh, I need that 15 minutes.
Yeah, right. But that's just a tip of the iceberg. It's something that's my old standby. Like everybody else's, their business cards, their standby. My bookmarks, my standby. Because again, I'm a storyteller. But one thing that we have a character ed show that I have written with my friend Suzanne Herring here in the States. And we do it together. And I always like to have a giveaway for everybody at the show. And it started out because people expect all balloons and they're not going to get them. I'm not going to give balloons to 300 people at my show. So I've got to have something else. But what we do is it's a peer-to-peer card. So at a school, you have kids, the principals and the teachers, sometimes they have this program where if they see a kid exhibiting one of the character traits, for example, caring. So somebody drops their books, they help somebody pick up their books. The teacher will see the kid doing that, and they'll get their name in a drawing for something special that week. Well, that's cool and everything, but the kids are expecting that. After a while, you realize that, teachers are supposed to do that. They're supposed to notice you. But what if we came up with something where the kids get to give a card to a kid. So then after the show, I tell them, everybody's going to get one of these character cards, and we're going to play a game. And what I want you to do is watch over the next couple of days and see who in your class. If you see them doing something that shows one of the character traits, then you give them this character card. It has a place for their name and the other kid's name and what they showed and then what they did that showed that. So, thanks for yeah, thanks. And it's something where it's got another twist on it. It's actually one of the most popular things about our character show. When we explain it and we're at the convention or some of the PTA convention and we explain that part, the PTA people, their eyes just light up. Are you serious? What a great idea. And that sometimes sells the show right there. But it's smaller than a bookmark, but what it is it's interactive. There's a purpose to it. It's not just, here's my marketing stuff, who cares? And then that's something that's going to get saved, because if a kid gets one, then they're going to bring it home, show their parents, oh my gosh, look what I got today. And that kind of thing is going to help promote the show, and the teachers will notice it and the principals will notice it.
And you've got
another thing that
you've got the children kind of handing that to one another. So it's again, it's viral. It's got a story behind it. If somebody's receiving that, they're receiving that from another child who's given it to them. And you're 100% right. They're going to be going home. That's going to be of immense value to that child, as opposed to a business card that they stood in a line and got, as it did everybody else at the show. It just takes it to another level. This is genius thinking. Just with that you've been speaking about, that little card there, would you be able to share like a little JPEG or something of that we could put onto the show notes so that people could go and have a look and see what that looks like? Sure.
I will do that. I'm writing a note right now.
Excellent. So,
or you can remind me. I'm sure you'll remember too.
If you're listening to this and you want to check what that card looks like, go on to kidsentertainerhub.com, go to the podcast tab, and just go down to the episode, and you'll actually be able to see it there in Annie Banannie's show notes. You'll be able to see a little example of the merchandise that she's talking about here, all the promo merchandise. Thank you for that.
Cool, thanks. Also, it's kind of like my hobby to make new stuff up, and I love to make new stuff up for other people. Which is, it's like figuring out a riddle, or doing like a word game or something like that with a friend. So I love to figure out what's going to really fit them. So that's why, again, I don't think business cards fit entertainers, unless there's one business card that really does, but it's because there's a trick built into it. And, that makes it special. Doesn't have anything to do with the size. You can give out something smaller if you want, or bigger. It doesn't matter. You just got to have something that's going to be interactive. I have something, and I keep thinking of new things to give out. And one of the things that I'm working on now is photo frames to give out at birthday parties. And I'm trying to find, I have a really good printer here. Anybody in the US, it's gotprint.net, and they do a fantastic job, but you have to have a big job. So it's not like you can go get 100 of something, but if you need 1,000, or usually 5,000 is where the price break goes, 2,500, then it's the perfect place. I get all my business cards there, all my promo stuff. But I'm looking to do photo frames, and I might have to actually physically cut every single one of them, but it's worth it, because if I give a photo frame to the kids at the party, then that gives their parents a reason to take a photo of them wearing my balloon creation or playing with it or whatever. And then the photo goes on the fridge, of course, with my info on it. So, but that wouldn't be appropriate for some things, but it would be perfectly appropriate for any time I do like a private event where I'm twisting balloons for everybody, small birthday party, something like that. So that's things that I'm working on. I lost track of your original question because I got all excited. What did you just ask me?
You're answering all the questions. You're going with it now. It was about what examples of promotional material that you use, and you're answering it so beautifully. I love the photo frame idea, because, again, that is going to hold such value to the parents. That will be there for years and years with that photo in, and sporting your business logo, and more than that, the memory of what they enjoyed with you, it just keeps on giving. And again, they'll be telling that story to anybody who looks at that and says, oh, that's a lovely photo. They'll hear the whole story all again with your branding and your name in there. It's genius stuff. And I'm being won over here because I've got a big box of business cards behind me here that we've just had printed, thousands of them, and you're winning me over bit by bit here. I love your ideas; they're so revolutionary and wow.
Oh, thank you. I'm not the only one to do it. But, there's one interesting thing is when you're like, people ask me how to come up with stuff.
Yes.
And before we get into how, actually, there's one more thing that I think is really important, is that if you are on a budget, especially if you have just blown a lot of money on some really fancy business cards and you can't think, oh, right now it's not in the budget to get more, think about stuff that you can do online and have a reason to send them to your website. So, for example, if you've got your business cards and you have your website name on there, if you're giving them to a kid, they're not going to be that excited. Maybe they'll give them to their mom. But if you say, did you know that you can go to my site and have a free magic trick. All you have to do is go to this and click on the thing that says kids, and you go right there, or your kids club or whatever. So everything, excuse me, for me is at one big hub. And I'm actually taking a really big chance. And instead of just having my school site be my balloonstoryteller.com, it's going to be for everybody. So I'm adding 2 more buttons. Right now there's 3 buttons, but there's 2 more buttons, and one is going to say parents, which is going to talk about birthday parties, and one already says kids, which takes them to the story contest and all sorts of things for kids to do. Now there's some gated stuff that you get when the kids enter my kids club that I'm working on right now, and there'll be special stuff that nobody gets. So Christmas wrapping paper with Christmas balloons on them, so they can print it out if they got a color printer, and they can wrap a gift in it. And it's just 8.5 by 11 regular sheet, but it's something that didn't cost me a single thing to make, because these are pictures I already have of my stuff. And then so I spent some time in Photoshop and made up this wrapping paper, and then it's a gift. So it's really valuable to them. It doesn't cost me anything. So same with printable coloring sheets or anything like that that's on the website, especially if you've got those skills to be able to do it, or it'll cost you just enough to pay your web guy to put it on there. So there's a lot that you can do for free that you don't have to spend a lot of money on promo merch unless you want to.
That's really lateral thinking there. So even if you are getting them to go to your website, have something there that they can get. So again, giving to them. So you're able to mention that as you're maybe giving the business card out, if that's all you got, you're saying, hey, if you go to this website, you're going to get that free magic trick, that free download. And Annie, you mentioned that there's a process that you might go through, kind of a brainstorming process or a system that you use when you're thinking of ideas. Can you share how your brain works when you're looking at these new ideas?
No, my brain works. That's a very scary thing to ask. Well, I look at promo stuff all the time, so I tend to notice it, and I kind of have an idea what kind of things are out there and what things cost. But what I do is when I brainstorm, I don't think about what things cost. I think what would be cool, and so I'll give me as an example. I'm a storyteller, so I teach creative writing. I promote reading. These are the kind of gigs that I get. I do the school assemblies. I do library summer reading programs. And personally, as a character, I love the classic balloon dog, and that's in a lot of my marketing. And anything with balloons is going to be in my marketing. So again, my competition isn't other balloon artists. My competition is other children's entertainers. And, so it's whatever my competition is for that type of gig. So things that would work for me would be anything that promotes reading, anything that, I'm just like crazy about new apps, but it's hard to keep track of them. I love things that teach in a really creative way. And I love anything where kids can make up stories, and it's a big part of my marketing. One of the things that I do, and I mention it even at the end of birthday parties, is I have a story contest where they can actually win a free family night for their school. And I give 4 of these away per year, and one for the older kids, one for the younger kids. And they send me a story, and then I read every single one. And then I give out when I give out the prizes, then they get the free family night. Well, what I really want in this is the interaction. So the educator in me says, I want this kid to know that if they practice, they can make up an awesome story, just like a real author, right? But as a promo person, I think I have just gotten one more bit of interaction with this child and with the parents, because we have to have the parents' email. So it's something they have to do together. Or with the teacher, if the teacher makes it into a classroom project, which happens a lot, that's at least 1 or 2 or 3 times during class where they're working on something, and I'm one of their goals. And so I've gotten that interaction. And so anything that promotes writing, children's writing. And so, for example, I'm looking to make some finger puppets, because I was in Office Depot, the office supply store, and I saw one of those, it was at Christmas time, and they have all these little gifts, and there was this finger puppet thing where they're dead simple to make. And I thought, wait a minute, I can completely do that with some of the stories kids send me. If I like one of the stories, one of the winter stories, I can make up balloons for that, balloon characters, and then I can make them so they have a little tab at the bottom where it's a printable, and they can print it. And so I don't have to actually have the expensive printing, and I can say, look, I have some really cool finger puppets for you. Or I can, on my YouTube channel, I have all sorts of things where they can, if I see where somebody has a video, how to make puppets, I say, oh, if you want, instead of emailing me something, you can do a little video and send me the video, and you can do your own little puppet show of your story, because some kids don't write well yet physically, but they can tell a story. A 4-year-old can tell you an awesome story. And it's adorable when the 4-year-olds do it, right? So that's another thing that I'm going to do. And that's a free thing, and using somebody else's content, which is even better. So you think about when you try to figure out what kind of promo merchandise to do what fits what you're already doing, the types of gigs you're doing, the things that you're interested in as a person, the things that you're interested in as a character, the things that you talk to kids about. But there's one caveat with that. There are things that I want to do that aren't going to fit my branding at all, that I love. So I'm insane about musical theater, but nothing I do has anything to do with musical theater. So I'm not going to have anything like that unless that starts to go into my show. And another thing that I've always wanted to do, I saw this, it was a business card that has recyclable paper in it, and it's got wildflower seeds. And what you do is when you get done with the business card, you plant it and it grows wildflowers. How cool is that, right?
Oh, that is awesome.
Thanks, but it wouldn't fit me. As cool as that is, unless I really get busy and write the environmental show I've been thinking about for 3 years, then it wouldn't work for me. And I'm finding that the more I stay focused on, there's a shorthand that I want people to think about with me, a balloon storyteller. That's why it's a play on words, and nobody knows what it is. And I'm establishing that as that's kind of an interesting thing to think about. Tell me more. And it's, so I wanted the shorthand to be that I'm all about using balloons to help kids learn how to write. And that's so unique and so specifically me that I may never do the wildflower thing, and I may never do an environmental show, because even though it's good to be diverse, on the other end, you can be too diverse. And that was the problem with my marketing in the last couple of years. We wrote the character show. I have a science show that I have a license for, and other things, but it doesn't work to say I do all these shows and I'm cool, because we lost that one short. It's, what do they call it when you soundbite? It's a soundbite. It's something. There are 2 or 3 words that they think of when they think of me, and the branding got muddy. So I'm back to saying, here's what I do, and this is my shortcut. This is my branding, and it's so you got to make sure that anything that you have really, really fits what you're known for and your branding shortcut.
That's
And
important. That's such an important message
it
that
is.
come back to. I guess that would start with really boiling down what you do, and you've mentioned again and again, balloon storyteller. You've identified who you are and what your brand is, what makes you different from a balloon artist or a storyteller. You are the balloon storyteller. You just are, and that's your soundbite. And I guess it starts with boiling down and looking at yourself as an entertainer. What is it that you do? What is your unique selling point? What is that soundbite for you? And then matching whatever you come up with in the promotional material ideas, making sure that it fits that base philosophy. No matter how cool the promo material is, it's got to fit that base philosophy, because it's got to say balloon storyteller when they have it in their hands.
Right. And not just saying it in the words, but saying it in what the interaction is.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I do a story writing workshop at a local children's bookstore. And that's the same thing, is that anything I do has to do with kids can make up stories. And the name of my show is Making Stuff Up. And it doesn't sound very, to a principal, it doesn't sound very educational, but with the subtitle, I really sell it. Because to the kids, what it means, I want them to know that it's just as easy to make up a story, and it's way more fun than reading a story is making up your own. And they naturally do that. But then they get scared of it, because then they think of writing a story as, oh no, I have to write it down and I have to spell things right and I have to make it pretty. And no, that's not what I'm about. I'm about, let's make some stuff up. And I'm about the fun part of that process.
That's the imagination, and the flow coming out there. And it just all fits for me. I get it. I so get this. And fitting that the promo items, making sure they fit that. But it also sounds like you keep your ear to the ground, as it were. I mean, before we started with our chat today, you were mentioning that one of your focuses in marketing is looking not what your competitors are doing, looking further afield of what big business is doing. You're talking about Times Square. What were they doing? What were those companies doing? You're looking around all the time of what are businesses doing? How are they promoting themselves? What are they using as promotional materials? How can that fit me? And you're doing the same when you're out shopping and it's Christmas time and you see the puppet kits and you're going, hey, there's something there, and it kind of goes in there and filters through and eventually matches that balloon storytelling, that children can tell a story, and hey ho, you've got something that you can print and put on your website. So I guess that shows a little bit of that thought process that you go through there.
Yeah, I kind of obsess about it sometimes. It's like a hobby. If people ask me what my hobbies are, that's kind of one of them.
Yeah.
And so you'll see me pull out my phone and take a picture of a product, and nobody will know why, but I've got something in my brain. And then I have an online filing cabinet called Evernote, and I use it all the time. Just anytime I have an idea, I tag it. So this is tag swag for stuff we all get. And, or merchandise. Sometimes I resell some things. And so anything that I have an idea about, I'll have 20 ideas and I'll only bring one of them to reality. But I'll never forget any of them. Sometimes when I'm getting an idea of, like when I go to the PTA convention, which we do, the PTA convention in California is amazing. And it's like one of the absolute, I think probably the very best in the country. And so when I go, I want something that's going to make me stand out, because everybody has promo merch there. And it's like a little competition. And so can I that's like the holy grail of getting awesome promo merch. If the PTA members are sharing your stuff and say, look, you got to go over to booth 465 because she's got these. And, they'll run and come and get your stuff. And to make it cool enough for that is lost the question again.
People want it. There was no question. You're all right. You go where it takes you, Annie. That's fine. We're loving it. It's great information that you're sharing there. You know, one of the things that came up for me is that if you're listening to this, I'd like to suggest that you go through to the show notes of this interview, kidsentertainerhub.com. Click on the podcast tab, go on down there, because everything that Annie's mentioning is going to be there. Things like Evernote that you mentioned, Annie, I'll put a link into Evernote because it really is, like you say, it's an awesome way of keeping notes. But I'm also going to suggest, come up with your ideas, have a think and do some brainstorming about what promo merchandise would suit you, whatever kind of entertainment you do, and go and mention it in the show notes. And Annie, will you pop in there and see what people are writing, maybe give a little bit of advice on that and your own input of, give them a little bit of I know it's your hobby, I know you'll be pretty passionate about that.
Oh, I'd love to. That'd be great. I love to get into those discussions about what other people are doing. And it just, when I see something that's just like, oh, that so works, it's like a good piece of art in my brain. It's art as a promo piece because it works for and I'm not talking about the visual art part. It's like when you do anything really, really well, it's a piece of art. And so have it being to hit all those points, it's good for your customers. It's good for your promo. It's useful or beautiful or amazing or unique. That I just love to see that. And also, we didn't talk about why things might not work, and some more things to think about with, there have been super huge fails for me as well, because anytime you're doing anything different and exciting, you're going to fail. And if you don't fail, you're not trying hard enough. So it reminds me of the movie The Robinsons, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, when I think it was the dad was trying to make the peanut butter and jelly machine, and everything went everywhere, and everybody got full of peanut butter and jelly, and everybody went, yay, it didn't work, let's try again.
Yeah.
And I love that.
So there are times when you've maybe got it wrong, where you've thought of an idea and thought this is going to win, and it hasn't been a winner.
I thought this was a really great idea, and I was being really, really generous. When I first started doing library shows here in California, I did want to give something to everybody, because with kids, when they see balloons, they're so used to a birthday party where everybody gets something. So I thought, well, I've got to have something to give to them. It has to be really cool. So I'm going to give everybody like a smiley face balloon. And I had these really cool postcards that had feet on them. So it looked like the smileys. And I got that idea from when I grew up in the 70s, where they used to have this big balloon, and then the bottom of there was this cardboard thing that had feet on it, and when you blew up the balloon, it was like a little standy up thing. So that was cool. So I designed that, and I was giving that out to everybody. So at $14 a bag of 100, it was getting pretty expensive, because my audiences were anywhere from 30 to 300, depending on which library I went to. So I thought I was being all generous. And I said, don't play with these in the library, put them in your pocket or give them to your mom or dad and you can take these home. Well, of course, no one followed my instructions. And so what I found out they were doing is they were going into the library afterwards, and they were not only blowing them up or just having them sit in their mouths, because these actual balloons are small and they're hard to blow up. So the librarians saw, ooh, danger, that kid's going to choke on the balloons. But another thing that was happening is, when a child has something in their mouth for a long time, especially when they're trying to blow into it, spit gets everywhere.
Yeah.
So we were having germs and spit and wet get all over the books. And finally they said, we see what you're trying to do. We appreciate that. Stop, please stop. And it turned out that not only was it really expensive, it was also not appropriate for the venue. And the next time I would give those out, and I've used them, I actually blow up the balloons and give them the inflated balloon, so that way it doesn't stay in their mouth for an hour. So that's something that I thought was like, oh, I'm so clever. And then you realize, oh, not quite so clever, because I didn't really think that through. And so not everything's going to work.
Sure.
And another thing that I did, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and you find out that that's not going to work when you have a crate full of them.
Right, right. Luckily, it's balloons I use all the time, but I did have the feet cards printed. So, and that's what I call them, feet cards. But so it did. But the one thing is it's kind of morphed into something different. So when I send a thank you card to someone, I actually have worked that into the thank you card. So it's something like a little gift that they can cut up. So the top of the card, when you open it, and it opens up. So the top of the card is where I write that, oh, thank you, I had such a great time and wasn't little Johnny blah, blah, blah. And then at the bottom, it has a pair of sneakers and instructions, and a little place where they can cut it. And on the very back of the card, it has my information, that my website and stuff, and how to make this into the thing. And then there's a little smiley face. So in my thank you card, I have a toy where that actually goes to the parents, which of course will give that straight to the kid. But it's, or if it's a corporate client and put it on their desk and everybody says, oh, it's adorable. That actually started out as a promo piece, like seriously 10, 12 years ago. And it morphed into, yes, this is a cute little, it's a promo piece too, but I'm using it in a different way. So I don't throw ideas away. I just keep them. I save everything.
Yeah,
as far as like ideas,
and that's
I guess all the time.
I guess that's important. If you do have something and it doesn't work, have a look at how you might change that, how you might adapt it to make it usable. Because that sounds like that's quite successful using the little feet part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there might be a better place to use it, or maybe you'll never use it again, but you can go back and say, hey, that was clever, and that's just a little patting yourself on the back. That was clever. Maybe I'll use that. Or maybe it can be for someone else. I came up with a magic, Jeff McBride's, like a 5-day magic workshop. And he designed one just for a bunch of balloon artists. We did it 2 or 3 times. And we came up with a name for me, the balloon pop star. And that's just adorable. But again, it doesn't fit me. I am not 15, and it's just, unless I was making a joke about it and gonna dress up as a middle-aged, overweight pop star, and that's a funny character, then really it's not going to work out. This was before the balloon storyteller thing came up, and so I kept that in my brain because it's a clever name. And then last year we had I taught a marketing masterclass. And one of the people there, she was 15, and she thought that was cool. And I said, oh, please use this. It's such a good idea. It'll totally fit you, because she does like beauty pageants, and she's just really effervescent. How fun is that I was able to pass that along and say, please take it if you want it, because it's awesome. I just can't use it.
Absolutely awesome. And you've just shared such passion, deep wisdom with us here today. You've shared with us what works. You've shared with us what doesn't work. You've shared your philosophy behind the promotional merchandise versus the business card. I wonder if you might leave us with kind of what's hidden in the secret vault for you. What have you got planned that you might be bringing out for you? Any kind of peeks behind that locked door of the good ideas you have in the pipeline?
Well, it's funny that you should mention it, Ken. I'm really glad. I almost forgot to mention it because I was so excited and about the other stuff. I am working with a magician in Colorado. He does a lot of, he sells a lot of this sort of thing, promo merch, and we are coming up with something that is going to be amazing. It's going to be one of the very most, it's going to be probably as high as 7 cents a piece, as low as like 4 cents a piece. And it's something people are going to play with all the time. It's balloon related, but it's also, anybody can use it. And I'm not exactly sure if I have permission to share what it is. Yes, I'm going to decide right now. I have permission to share what it is because it's coming up. We're going to do a Kickstarter campaign, and it's based on the fortune teller fish, which I think is adorable, but it doesn't fit me. like one, it's got the actual fortune teller fish that you all buy. It's very outdated. It was, I don't know, it looks like it was designed in the 60s, where, yeah, if you're trying to go a retro look, that's great, but fish has nothing to do with what I do. So it's not going to be a good promo thing for me, but it's adorable. And I love how it moves in the hand and you've got that interaction. So I'm working with Chad Wonder in Colorado, and he is working with a manufacturer in China, and we are going to get these shaped like balloon dogs, and it's going to be called Trick Balloon Dog. And we are getting everything together for the Kickstarter campaign, including, of course, I never just do one thing. I'm designing cards to go inside. You know, when you have that little envelope, you want the little piece to go inside to keep the thing flat and nice. Yep. And it's also really great for your business info. We're designing one for magicians, one for balloon artists, and one for clowns. And then if people have other ideas, we're going to do more. We're also going to do, you know how Kickstarter has all those different levels. We're going to do levels where one level includes video on how to make a balloon dog. And then just one of those, they call it white label in the marketing business, where it doesn't, it's something that works. It'll just probably be, I'm sorry, that is my computer telling me what time it is. So it'll be just the hands making the balloon dog, and it can be labeled for anybody. So you could put your promo label on it, or somebody else's promo label, or my promo label. So it won't be me doing it. It will be hands. So that way you can put your own stuff on it. And so everything from that to the prizes at the top are going to be, the levels at the top are going to be like me helping you design your own thing to go with who you are and how that could fit using the Trick Balloon Dog. So if you go to trickballoondog.com, there is an email sign up. So whenever we get the Kickstarter launch ready, it's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. And we haven't decided how long the launch is going to be. It might be 3 to 4 weeks long. And I don't know how long the manufacturing takes. I haven't talked to Chad about that yet. But if you want to know more about it, go there. And then when like if you're listening to this podcast 6 months from now and it's already all done, that'll be the place where you find out more about getting more of them, because we're going to actually manufacture more than are ordered. But the main thing is we need to raise enough money to actually get a whole, they have a charge for the design of it and all that. And so we're trying to get that product on the market. And so that's going to happen probably, I'm sure the Kickstarter campaign will start before the end of April 2015.
That is a genius idea. And for anybody listening to this who doesn't know what a fortune-telling fish is, it's kind of a little cellophane fish, and you put it on your hand and it dances around. It actually animates because of the heat of your hand. And there have been literally millions and millions of these little fish sold over the years. And kids, adults, everybody just absolutely loves that. And to be able to take that and adapt it to something that is useful for us as entertainers, a balloon dog, and to have that animate on your hand, that is just, it is going to be so valuable. So there is that domain again. It is trickballoondog.com. Go and check that out. That'll definitely be worth your while. And I just want to say, Annie, you have been a star. You really have been a star. You've shared so graciously. I look forward to the comments that will come in under the show notes of people's ideas of what promotional merchandise they think would fit them, and you getting into that conversation and sharing your advice with them. Just thank you so much for your time on the Kids Entertainer Podcast.
Thank you. I love talking about this.